Hello, good morning, everyone, folks, and welcome to the 2022 edition of the annual Dad Device tier list here. So, what are we looking at? Basically, this list is specifically looking over like the kinds of devices that work once you kind of fall into that dad role. Once you get into that situation where you need a device that can take some punishment, not make you look like an asshole to your family, fit within your budget, and also just usually take one hell of a beating. It's a very oddly specific list, and not a lot of handhelds actually hold up in this particular context. But you know what? Over the years, as more kiddos have shown up, kind of boiled it down to a few that I think are really awesome. But there's a lot of them that keep coming up year after year. And especially one of them in particular kept getting requested since last year. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. So this is going to be in no particular order since the tier maker thing just kind of throws them in whatever order here and won't let me delete some of them. So some are in here twice. Now, as with last year, we're going to start off with the S tier, like easily one of the greatest devices ever made, and it's a shame that it hasn't had a chance to kind of live up to its potential. But that would be the Vita 2000. Now, the Vita is an interesting case because it's an incredibly capable device. Hacking them is actually a relatively quick process. Actually, the speed of hacking a device is one of the things that I'm actually going to be factoring in this year, because one of the things that I kept realizing when rotating different devices, because yes, I know I go through a lot of different devices, because I like to test a lot of different things. I like to fix these things up regularly. But while the Vita is not necessarily something that you want to work on that much, like you don't really want to take it apart that often, they are built incredibly sturdy. I would call it easily the affordable Mercedes of this particular list here. The 2000 in particular, I had. So I carried one around with me pretty much constantly for about 6 years. Like, personally, I always like to have a device on me at all times. Because, let's be honest, you never know where your day is going to take you. You never know what's going to come your way. And you need something that's going to be able to kind of take a beating as you go along. And yeah, aside from analog stick drift, which is annoying, and also fixable with some alcohol and a Q-tip, they're very strong devices. They can emulate a ton of stuff. There's a bunch of stuff that no one ever knew could run on a Vita that works just fine, and there's a lot of people panic selling them for under $100 right now. So, absolutely fantastic there. If you didn't know, they actually recently got a firmware update that ended up messing up a few hacks, but I don't believe they actually ruined all of them. Still, there's enough people panic selling them that whatever, you can get them. I've consistently thrown out offers of sub 100. You can get brand new ones on eBay from Japan, which, by the way, once you put custom firmware on these, having a Japanese one is probably going to be a hell of a lot better. I know personally, I was actually considering picking one up because, again, 127, you can get a new one in box, like whatever color. I mean, I think like the white ones are like 160 or something, but still, that's for a brand new device. That's insane. Anyway, so yeah, absolute top of the pile there. The 1000s are a bit chunkier and have a bit less battery life, but yeah, insane battery life. Another thing definitely to consider on this list, because you won't always have the time to actually go and charge your device. But yeah, I love the Vita. And yes, I have rotated it out a few times before, but it is definitely, like, for the amount of punch that you're getting, absolutely. It's, like, just the best. It's so dang good. They're really built sturdy. I mean, the last Vita that I had looked like somebody had chucked it straight into a concrete floor or something. And, like, it had taken some serious shell damage. Like, I don't know how they managed to hit it that hard, because like I said, I carried one with me constantly for 6 years. My kids picked it up and chucked it before. It was able to take whatever beating with barely a scratch. That's one of the things with Sony devices. They know how to build little portable tanks, and I don't know how they hold up so well. I can't say for the 1000 because I've had limited experience with that one, but for the 2000, it's light enough and durable enough that it is going to take whatever you throw its way. The only actual problems, like I said, the analog sticks are a bit weird. The memory sticks, if you get a bad one, like, just get an SD to Vita. The official memory cards are absolute total dog shit. There's no point to ever use those. But yeah, aside from that, beautiful device, definitely deserves to be at the absolute top before we even get this list started. Next one is one that came up pretty decent bit last time as well, and that would be cell phones. Now, I know, it's going in the butt pile here, just because, yes, they do run most emulators perfectly. I will say, by the way, for the Vita, like, almost flawless across the board through RetroArch. I see a lot of places advertising RetroArch as like the end-all, be-all, greatest emulator thing out there. It's not. Actually, for most devices, it absolutely sucks, but for phones, they've got enough dedicated emulators, and they're easily accessible enough that you don't even have to mod anything on them. You just put an emulator on there, drop your mods in, or drop your ROMs in, and you're good to go. And if you weren't aware, if you have an old DS type thing with you, you can always, you can always just port all your original saves. I was really happy recently to get like all my old Night of Lotus saves and things like that over, back up to my PSPs and things. But any dang ways, see, cell phones, they're fantastic as far as what they can do. They're not fantastic in terms of the battery life situation, because here's kind of the conundrum in the dad role, right? If you're imagine any scenario in which you carry 2 cell phones and don't look like a drug dealer, right? Like, the thing is, when you're in a family type situation, you always want to be very like upfront and whatever else about whatever you're doing. So when it comes to the cell phone, it's like, if you're carrying around 2 cell phones, there's always going to be that thought in the back of everyone's head of like, why is this weirdo got 2 cell phones? And like, even if you show that one of them's a dedicated game device, I've seen relatives rocking 2 cell phones and everyone still didn't trust them because it looked weird. If you're just using your main phone, hey, this is great, I already have it on me. In short bursts, maybe, but it will drain the battery, and also, again, you have a phone out in front of you, generally speaking, that will come across pretty negatively to some people. I know, because I've had GBA and GBC emulators running on my phone like all the dang time, but yeah, there's pretty much always that look in the background of, why do you have that out right now? Stop texting or stop whatever you're doing. There's mac and cheese to find or clean out or something. So yeah, comes across as kind of negative. Makes it kind of appear lazy to people. This is a weird mental game to consider. But, back to the previous point and most obvious point, you're going to drain your battery. You need your battery for a lot of things. You don't want to be losing it. And before somebody mentions the external battery argument, no. Because, let's say you're running an N64 emulator and your phone heats up. Great, you have an external battery. That's going to slow down the process. It's not going to cool down your phone. So what are you going to do? You're going to shove it in the air conditioning socket? Okay, great. It's cooled down, but now you still have a lower battery. You still gotta wait longer for the external battery to charge it up. It's just carry a different device. That's the thing. They're incredibly capable, but they toast. We have gotten newer, modern, some of the topper end, kind of upper end phones just off of convenience. It was actually a really nice situation that allowed that to happen. And no, they still have the same freaking problem. So, no. All right. Next up. Okay, that was loud. Shout out to the cat that randomly decided to run into the office door. Brilliant. Can't figure out the cat door, but sure, let's headbutt a door. Anyway, moving on. Next up on the awesome pile, we have the original model 3DSs, and actually, we're gonna go ahead and put the chunkier model DSs down here. Now, one little honorable mention that I forgot to put on this pile was the original clamshell DS, which easily still goes in the awesome pile, by the way. I never, recently, I reacquired a clamshell DS to fix up, and I never realized how dang light those things are. I remember them being, fairly chunky and heavy and whatever else, but then I picked it up and this is a featherweight. This weighs absolutely nothing, and yeah, it just feels good to be able to put stuff into slots. Anyway, so yeah, why original style DSs? Why the smaller ones? Well, for obvious reasons, they gotta fit in your pocket. The chunkier ones do not fit in your pocket, and if you do get them in your pocket, them things are risky. See, comparing with everything else on this list, the Vita has enough rounded edges on it that generally speaking, it will fit in your pocket. Even if it feels like it's bending a little bit, they're specifically shaped like a pocket. Like, I've had them in all kinds of different pockets. I've even had them flip sideways and still be fine. Original style DS is similar thing. They've got rounded edges. They fit in your pocket nicely. It's great. Personally, I don't run the original 3DS as often because I had hand surgery a little while ago, and basically anything that has kind of pointy edges on the edge, that tends to aggravate my my hands. So it's a great device. The analog sticks feel great on the original one. It's just small enough. Once hacked, they can run a lot of emulators, shittily. But yeah, they've got an excellent library of their own. It's honestly kind of its own experience. And it's surprising how much stuff actually holds up. Like, I've regularly gotten the original 3DS out just to play some Terraria on it, of all things. And it's like, it's not an optimal experience, but it still feels good on this little handheld. You know, all the Pokemon games on it are an obvious one to keep in mind as well. I'm pretty sure there's many other dads that like randomly nose-locking things for no reason too. Either way, great library of their own stuff. They just feel great to play. Generally speaking, people understand what they are. So yeah, it does have the visual problem though. But the thing is, Nintendo devices almost across the board are kind of, they're made in a way that is very inoffensive. So, for example, like, I've brought my 3DS places and have not gotten any weird looks, whereas some other devices on this pile I have. So, I would say there's something very generally inoffensive about them, and people kind of get the idea that it's like, oh, you know, it's just a casual game thing. They didn't want to burn their battery or whatever else. You know, whatever. Who cares? Who cares? They just had one lying around. There's no judgment here. The 3DSs, though, or the chunky 3DSs, definitely do not have that problem. If you whip out one of these at game night, people are going to know you brought it only to play a game and because you're bored at game night. Not to mention, yeah, they're more easily breakable. They're harder to find parts for. They're big, they're chunky, their batteries don't last as long. And, man, I don't know why they decided to round off both edges, because they're not nearly as durable as the other models. A lot of the ones that I've seen kind of come through for cheap. I mean, chunky 3DSs are friggin' expensive. But a lot of the ones that I've seen come through are yeah, pretty damaged in the actual full case department, and especially the LCDs too, because a lot more screen space means a lot more breakability. They need to have some kind of chunk to the screen to be able to survive that kind of stuff. They expected the shell entirely, to do the protecting here. So, yeah, the LCDs on those can get broken fairly easily. They're not expensive to replace, but they are a colossal pain in the ass to reinstall. These things suck to work on. Actually, original 3DS has that same problem, but generally they're sturdy enough that it's not a problem. Like, I bought mine 6 years ago. With LCD problems, and it's still fine. Like, I just put up with the occasional flicker. It's whatever. Actually, again, sorry to just kind of sit here, kind of setting up the cult of the Vita. But yeah, hardened. I think it's like Gorilla Glass or something across the front of it. It feels like a phone screen. Things tanky. Anyway, next up. One for the don't pile. I'm not even going to mention one particular, but okay. I guess the GPDs are the obvious one, like GPD Win and stuff like that. There's a bunch of little mini laptops and things like that. Just don't. There's no way to have one of these. Like, yeah, they can do a lot of things, but they're expensive as hell, and there's no way to whip out one of these in a casual way without looking like a complete douchebag. So, no. Just no. Just absolute no across the board there. Laptops, kind of, because you can easily switch between work and other things. I know my wife and I have our laptops around the house every now and then. Like, I'll have some sort of the Stars of the Pit playing while, you know, doing some courses or something like that during nap time. It can work. I mean, hell, this channel runs off a freaking laptop. I mean, realistically, you already have one. They do the job well enough. It's just not really going to be portable. you know, it's movable. It's not portable. Next up on the 3DS line, though, another kind of I'm kind of arguing which place to put it here, but yeah, the 3DSs, except they're smaller this time. They're good. I mean, again, original 3DS, I'd assume more folks have that around and you can get them for cheaper. These miniature 3DSs are harder to, miniature 3DS XLs are nice, but again, expensive to get a hold of. So they're awesome. They have better hardware than the original 3DSs, but I wouldn't say go out of your way to get one. All right, next up, for the awesome pile here, we have the Retroid Pocket. It's pretty great. It's pretty great. Basically runs most emulators pretty darn well. You know, runs quite a wide suite of different emulators. Comes with, I forget how many they said they were installed, but pretty much any old system you can think of, including the PSP. Now, I've heard mixed news on, you know, kind of whether or not it can run PSP consistently. From what I've heard, it can run Tactics Ogre and Armored Core, so that immediately makes it great in my book. That's actually currently on my list for picking up, but based on all research that I could do on that particular device, absolutely excellent. Not to mention they're new. Not to mention every time that they kind of make new hardware improvements over the years, they have a lower cost kit that you can just reinstall into your device. And yeah, they're basically designed to be worked on. They're more or less taking that whole thought process of having a phone and having a game device at the same time. I do wish that they had one that kind of came in all gray or all black, but then again, those options might become available, and also you can swap stuff out, so technically it's possible. Heard iffy things on the battery life, apparently about 2 to 3 hours. Not really ideal, but again, could be wrong on that one, but like actual performance-wise, actual budget-wise, like we're talking sub $100 to get one of these brand new. Really capable devices, has a lot of modern features on there, modern charging cords, all that. It's probably the one thing against the Vita. You gotta have a micro USB. With the 3DSs, you gotta have their proprietary cords. Same thing for a lot of stuff on here. Speaking of proprietary cords, another awesome one that I actually overlooked a little bit in previous years was the PSP Go. Now, personally, same problem for me with this one. I don't know if you can hear the click in the background here. But yeah, it's got sharp edges on the sides. Why? I don't know. Actually, I probably should have taken these little silvery sidebar dealies off of this thing. But yeah, really good device. Ultra featherweight. In fact, it's actually built a bit more durably than I would have thought, and you can actually get original screens for like $10. iFixit lists these as being very difficult to repair. So when I picked this Go up, I had gotten it with the hinges messed up, the screen pretty much destroyed, and it had a crack along the back shell, right? So I ended up just taking some glue to the back shell because it was still doing its job just fine. It just needed a little sealing. And then put some vinyl on there, so I got one that looks like an owl now. So yeah, the vinyl kits on these feel fantastic. The actual feel of the device is awesome. Like, I've heard that you can't play them for action games. I did about the majority of Silent Line parry only with one of these things. Or with this device, rather. And it worked for that just fine. Honestly, if it wasn't for the sharp edges, I probably would be keeping it as the main one. I've heard that their battery life isn't great, but I gotta hard disagree on that one. It ran for about 5 hours for me, and that's perfectly fine. Proprietary cord is annoying, but it does feel very sturdy. And yeah, other than that, the screen looks incredibly pretty, even though it's smaller. And yeah, it's one of those ones that kind of hits that sweet spot of looking cool enough, and looking unique enough that people don't necessarily question the fact that you have a game with you, because it's so tiny, it's so featherweight. It's like, yeah, whatever, you put that in your pocket, we're not gonna judge. You just had it with you, you know? You didn't specifically bring this thing out. Which the Retroid is kind of running the line on that one, I gotta say. But yeah, when it comes to the PSP Go, like, you could easily buy that you just put this in your shirt pocket and called it a day. But speaking of the PSP line, alright, I don't remember which of these pictures is which, so we're just going to kind of figure it out. I think this is the original, if I'm not mistaken. So original PSP, like the chunky 1000 models, they're nice and sturdy. They can take a solid beating. Most of the ones that I've seen have their internals perfectly fine, and just somebody managed to like drop a brick on the screen or something. Easy to replace parts out of, easy to get a hold of those parts. Like pretty much every part that you could need to replace aside from the motherboard is like 10 to 20 bucks. And yeah, you can get them for pretty cheap. People get rid of them all the time. Actually, one of the most common ways that I end up getting PSPs is because people will dig them out of a drawer or something and list them up on Facebook Marketplace, because they'll look at the back battery cover and they're like, oh no, the battery's swelled, this thing is done for, and then it'll just be a completely new condition, been sitting in a box for years kind of situation. And in some cases, you can just charge the battery and it'll be just fine. Now, generally for swollen batteries, that's not advised, but I can honestly say that multiple times now I've gotten ones with, swollen batteries, just slap the back cover back on there, charged it a few times, and it seems to have resolved itself. I don't know why, because normally they're not supposed to work that way. I don't know if they have some, other weird gas issue or whatever else. I've been told that they will continue to degrade at that point. I'm using one of those current, previously, swollen batteries on my PSP right now. And actually, if you're really worried about getting new batteries, Cameron Sino makes really good ones. Like I have one right in front of me right now that is about 8 hours with normal settings. With underclock, you could probably get that past 11. To go back and fillet the Vita some more, by the way, that's about how much that one gets out of the gate, and you can underclock it to like 15. Anyway. So yeah, original PSP, it's okay, but it's kind of chunky. PSP 2000, 3000, S tier, my personal favorite of, and actually the one that I'm currently using on this list. You can run a hell of a lot of things on there. Video out, surprisingly, actually works really great on them. Incredibly easy to mod, incredibly easy to update. They just feel so good to use. The buttons are all gummy, and I love that. So yeah, beautiful devices. They weigh next to nothing. They can take an absolute beating. You have a lot of customization options if that's your thing. Although, the shell casings are a bit of a pain to actually install. So I wouldn't recommend going for the fancy LED shell casings or anything like that. But there's a lot of different mods that come out for these pretty regularly. Definitely just an incredibly powerful device for the size, and they're small enough that again, people can generally buy. That you didn't really bring this thing out specifically to annoy someone. I have mine at game nights and things like that all the time. A lot of times people don't even notice that I have it in my hands. So great devices. And yeah, they still hold up to this day. If you're looking to get one, generally, while a lot of devices you want to buy for parts off eBay, it's kind of semi-inconsistent there. The best place I've seen is Facebook Marketplace to get these, from people panic selling them out of their sock drawers. So, use that as you will. All right, next up, Amazon specials, Wish specials, whatever the hell you want to call them. These kind of random garbage, they put some NES emulators in an old Game Boy shell kind of situations. They're alright to throw at 5-year-olds, if you need to give them something to do, but even they'll probably get bored. There's some good options out there, but let's be honest, this is not going to be your dedicated device. Okay, and actually, speaking of, finally, this thing has allowed me to get to one of the ones that kept coming up since last year. And that would be the Steam Deck, right? So, the Steam Deck, incredibly powerful device. Great overall thing. It is, big boy Switch, basically. It's just a tablet with chunky controllers on it. Okay, it's more than that. I know. But the thing is, if you're on the go, no, it just wouldn't work at all. The thing's too big. They are designed to be worked on. They are designed to be customized. That part's awesome. They can run pretty much, I mean, your whole Steam library, so you already have quite a library for it, let's be honest. So if you're somebody that uses Steam a whole lot and you don't go anywhere, like you're just dadding from home, it might work for you. Definitely not portable, and also you're running a lot of risk in your pocket. Because them things are like, what, like $500 to $600 depending on settings. So it's definitely a lot of risk that you're carrying with you with this thing. Personally, like, I respect the hell out of this device, but I would never get one, is the thing. I've read up a lot on it. I've watched a lot on it. It doesn't seem like it would suit the role particularly well. But again, if your main thing is Steam games, you became a dad, your kids are all at home, you work from home, it could work, because you could just pick it up and play your Steam library. But again, it's not going to work for on the go. It's not going to work for game nights. You're going to look like a complete dork whipping out your mini computer on a game night. And okay. All right. Next up, kind of in the butt pile, is the iPad, tablet, whatever you will. Now, previously I had this as A or S. Now, the thing is, okay, they actually hold up well to emulators. Okay, iPads are a pain, just absolute pain to get emulators on, but they hold up well to the emulator options that are available. They can have pretty extended battery lives. You already have one around. The butt factor here is the fact that kids love iPads, right? So, for example, the XCOM 2 collection port for iPad, absolutely incredible. Easily the best portable port. Blows the Switch one out of the water, no question. But the kids see iPad, they're like, I'm gonna pick this up and go. I see shiny screen, I press buttons. So that's kind of to be expected. The kids know how to use iPads right now, meaning that you probably want something with buttons, because they will mess with it. They will find your saves and delete them. That said, they do have some great options. It's why it's in the butt category. It's like absolutely incredible device. They're very capable. You also sometimes have weird situations where stuff just randomly won't work. Like if you have an old enough iPad, for example, certain games just plain won't work on there. Like I love having just having FTL on there. Great, fantastic. But yeah, there's something that you would have had to have some other reason to bring along with you, is the thing. You're not just going to casually have an iPad in your pocket. Some of the smaller Samsung tablets, maybe, but at that point, you're kind of giving up a lot of performance on those things. And also, well, again, you don't really want it in your pocket. They bend. They crack, and it's not a good time at that point. Alrighty, one brief pause later. Next up, we've got the Switch. Again, going in the butt pile for this one. I love the Switch. I love the library on it. It feels good to play. But, and actually it's great for the kids too. We have like a Genesis Collection and Just Dance, and the kids absolutely love those. But you're not bringing this with you casually. Even the Switch Lites are not really portable. They're like, I was having a conversation with some of the cousins yesterday even. I was like, why, you guys are always hanging out places, why do you not bring your Switch Lites with you? Like, they're too big. People see them in our backpacks. And I kept thinking back to, like, always having a GBA at school. Like, you really cannot stash these things in any reasonable way. So yeah, it's kind of the same thing as the Steam Deck, where it's like, it's a great device, but it's not leaving your house, if we're being honest. But speaking of GBAs, by the way, they're still awesome to this day. Now, that's kind of an odd one, like, considering the screen thing. But if you go to the park, like if you're going to the park with the kids, especially now that it's summer and whatever else, you have an old GBA, and you happen to have $50 to throw at one of these devices, this is going to seem like an odd recommendation, but find yourself an EverDrive or something similar, and just rock the GBA. Because there's so many customizations you could do for old GBAs now that it's not even funny. You want to backlit, like, if you just have it out for summer or whatever else, Original GPA works great for that because they hold up really well in the sun. Some of the other devices, it might be hard to tell what's going on. In these ones, they're perfect. The screen shines in the sun. Again, oddly specific, but it's there. You can install sleep buttons in these, oddly enough, and that's kind of their main downside originally. Carrying multiple carts was a problem, but again, get an EverDrive, you'd suddenly have like 128 gigs, which is pretty much the size of the entire Game Boy library. And yeah, great devices. They weigh nothing. They feel good. And, you know, worst case scenario, somebody asks what you're doing with that thing. Oh, you know, I was just feeling nostalgic. I just found this in my basement. So they're small enough that you can kind of fit them wherever. But maybe you don't want the screen exposed, in which case we get to our next S-tier device, which is the SP. There's a reason that these ones are still so freaking expensive. Like, a lot of fixed up SPs are like $200 at this point. That said, you can get them for parts for cheap, because most of the time when it comes to old handhelds, people don't want to mess with that. And actually, a funny note that I should go back to, on the PSP Go, you might be asking why that's considered a budget device, because those things have gone up as high as like $400 in recent years. Actually, their price tanked recently, to the point that you can get one for sub $100. I bought mine for about $30. Basically, on eBay, so there's a few things. For one, if it's one of your first purchases this year, they got $10 off of pretty much anything. For another, you can split it up into payments if it's really that much of a thing, because PayPal's been doing that recently. But due to the circus visiting town on the other end of the world, one of the main, pretty much the main seller, somebody named AAA Mods, great people by the way, are based out of Ukraine. They're the ones that make the memory stick mods for these. The thing is, like with the PSP, the Vita, all that, it's just you stick an SD in an adapter and you pop it in the hole. With these ones, with the PSP Go, they used a proprietary memory card called an M2. And the thing is, it requires some soldering and some ribbon cables to basically, you got to open up the devices, you got to put the chip in the hole, you got to make sure everything works. And then you like thermal tape it to the back of the device, like on the inside plate rather. And it's funny because I'm pretty sure the guy that sold me this PSP Go was trying to install that mod and then dropped it in the process. So, thanks for the deal on that. Anyway, so because I noticed that they clipped out the area they need to clip out. But yeah, so you just kind of like thermal tape it on there, and there you go. You suddenly have the same SD capabilities as all the other ones. It's just a little bit more hands-on. But yeah, due to that, people have been panic selling them, and like I said, their store still functions. I was able to order one and talk to the seller just fine. So yeah, even though they're based out of Ukraine and all that, they're still holding up just fine. Yeah, I really hope they kick the circus out soon. It's gone on too long. It's honestly just completely unnecessary. Anyway, point being though, yeah, when it comes to the SPs, I know we kind of went on a tangent. Original screens are actually sought after for people that want to make mods, because people make IPS mods out of the original SP screens. They're incredibly portable. They're pretty reasonably durable. Like I said, if you have an original one already, you can just rock that. Those EverDrive things can actually run a much wider library than the original system could run, and they just feel good, But yeah. So overall, if you have $100, you can get one device, and that's going to be your main one to run for. PS Vita, right? Those things are just the best. Like overall, pound for pound, they are the frickin' best. And if you have a similar problem to me where the sharp edges hurt your hand, get a silicone, like one of those condom cases for it. I know it worked just fine for me for absolutely ages. If you're looking for something a little bit smaller, lighter, and you only play PSP games anyway, just get a PSP 2 or 3000. The 3000s are absolutely excellent. The 2000s have better battery life, and they're easier to get a hold of. But honestly, both of them are pretty interchangeable. You get one screen light setting that's different. Some people claim to be able to tell the scan lines on the 3000 models. I don't see it, but again, some people are more nitpicky than others, I guess. If you just need an even smaller PSP, there's always the Go. You know, they're finally affordable now. So yeah. Hopefully this helps with some of this information. If you have any questions or you have another thing that you want to see thrown on there, do let me know. Actually, I should probably throw out there, yeah. If the only reason that the Retroid Pocket... Oh, wait a minute. No, we're missing one. Where is it? Crap. Hold on, one sec. Okay, so I just noticed I didn't add it to the list and it would erase the entire thing if I used it, so... Okay, I know this is an iPad. Pretend this is the Analog Pocket, okay? I don't know why it didn't add it to the list, but the Analog Pocket is basically this thing that's supposed to be like a modern Game Boy kind of thing. You can use original cartridges with it. You're meant to use original cartridges with it. If you use modded cartridges, apparently the save state functions on it don't work. The idea is that it's supposed to be like a modern Game Boy / GBA type thing, with the option for save states and other emulator features, but you're still using original hardware. It manages to kind of be a mix of both worlds in terms of being... Okay, it's a mix of all the worst stuff. It's hard to get a hold of. It's expensive. The thing is easily scratchable. The carry case on it, for some reason, scratches the device. You know, great on that. Apparently the battery life isn't super amazing, and yeah, you still got to use original carts. It just seems like the worst of all worlds. I mean, it's the same size as original Game Boy Color, more or less, but, like, it doesn't have the rounded edges that you need for pocketability. Like, they're kind of rounded, but it's mostly just a square. Oh, man. That thing hurts. Because it's such a cool idea. Like, if those things were $50 or something, like, just stop with the fancy screen and fancy features. If it was just a re-released Game Boy with a, you know, at least acceptable screen, wonderful, you know? Just make it cheap and you can use the original stuff and there you go. But I'm not paying $200 for that. Are you insane? So, yeah, that's kind of that. It's like the weird mix of everything being all wrong on it. Yeah, the screen's nice, but... Anyway. Alright. So hopefully this was helpful. I was mentioning earlier about the Retroid. The only reason it's a little bit lower is because I've heard that they're not exactly great at taking a beating. I do plan to, you know, to fully review one of these at some point. But just not at the second, you know? There's stuff going on. So, alright, anyway, that'll be that. You guys have a good one. Take care, and if you have any other devices that you want to see added to this in the future, please do let me know. Have a good one, and bye.